So I know last time I said I wasn't going to do one of these hauls again for a little while, but it was my birthday. So basically, in this pile next to me, I have some gifted books and also some books that I bought with my money that I was gifted for my birthday. Then also I have some proofs and books that I bought for work. Basically, we're just gonna do a big old haul, partly because they're fun, but also because, I don't know, I kind of like the idea of having a bit of accountability and letting you know which books are coming into my life. So firstly, we're going to talk about the box set that I did impulse buy. This was not a birthday thing. This was not, I didn't do it with my birthday money. It was just an impulse buy. It's something that I've been looking at for quite a while. I know I mentioned it in a video several months ago that I was kind of like thinking about this series. And honestly, I'm not sure how it's going to go. Part of me after my experience with Brandon Sanderson is wondering if this is just going to burn me. But it's been playing on my mind and I saw a really good bargain for the box set, so I did it. And that is the box set for the Rhaeria Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan. And honestly, I can't quite pin the tail on the donkey of the reason that this series is living in my mind rent-free. I think after my experience with Brandon Sanderson, which if you haven't seen, I hate Mistborn with like a fervent, fiery passion. Hot take, I know. But anyway, what I wanted out of Brandon Sanderson was some sort of light, fun adventure fantasy. I wanted that easy to read kind of stuff because even though I love reading the heavier, harder stuff, I don't want to be reading it all the time. And whenever I search up fun fantasy, this series gets mentioned again and again. And so over the last few months, I've found myself continuously looking it up, looking up reviews, watching reading vlogs, the whole shebang. And so when I saw this box set go on sale, something just took over me and I bought it. Of course, I know it's risky buying a whole series when you haven't even read like a chapter from an author yet. But those box set deals are hard to walk away from. What can I say? I'm a total sucker. Next up, a book that I did buy for myself with my birthday money is Shadow Life. This is a graphic novel that I don't even remember where I heard about it, but I just remember hearing about it literally once and I knew I had to have it. I think it's about a widow in her 70s whose children, like well-meaning children, end up putting her into assisted living against her wishes. I think she ends up kind of like escaping this situation and living somewhere on her own. So it's like a little bit of a slice of life story about this woman, but then also death comes knocking. And so it's about this woman, I don't know, trying to run away and escape from death. I don't really know what kind of tone this will take. Just the premise and the way that I did hear about it, even though I can't remember who from, I feel like this is something I could really love. And I love a good, like, emotional bit of like contemporary, maybe a bit of magical realism, slice of life. I don't know, some kind of mix of all of that. Manga story and graphic novels. I just love them. And especially a woman in her 70s as a protagonist. Like that's just something that I don't see a lot of in books in general, let alone in graphic novels and in manga. So I was really excited to give this a try. This one I'm so excited about. Blair got me this for my birthday. It's A Journal of My Father by Jiro Taniguchi. Now, if you don't know, Furari by Jiro Taniguchi is my favorite manga of all time. I absolutely adore it with every fiber in my being. I really loved his Guardians of the Louvre. I didn't like so much The Walking Man, but ultimately I'm at the point where I'm obsessed with Jiro Taniguchi and I want to read everything he's ever written. A lot of his works are now being published in these very, very beautiful hardcover editions, which is lovely, but that makes them kind of pricey. So it's the sort of thing I definitely appreciate getting for my birthday. Jiro Taniguchi tends to do these very, very slice of life stories, sometimes with a hint of magical realism, but just very mundane people featured in his stories. And there's something so relaxing and cozy about his work that I just adore. And his artwork is gorgeous, especially his imagery of landscapes, honestly breathtaking. And I think this is a story about a son and a father sort of reconnecting after a troubled relationship. So again, very small slice of life stuff, but I'm just really looking forward to it. And thank you, Blair. This was a very exciting present to get. Now, this next one was not a present, not a birthday thing, but basically I picked it up really cheap because there's a big box cutter cut through the back cover. This is The Winter Garden by Alexandra Bell. I don't really know a whole lot about this, but when I saw it on the shelf, it seemed interesting. And I don't know, something about the cover and the vibes was making me think of things like A Marvelous Light, like that kind of fun, slightly cozy, playful fantasy that we're getting quite a bit of lately. And I think the idea of a winter garden in particular, like this mysterious winter garden filled with magic, I just like immediately it conjured images of like this charming, cozy, whimsical kind of vibe and setting for me, which usually does wonders for me. And yeah, with a damaged back cover, that's not really going to faze me, but it meant that I got to pick up a book for a total bargain. These next two books, one of my best friends got me for my birthday. The first is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is the first in the Ember Quartet, which is a fantasy series that I often see shelved in either the YA or the adult fantasy categories in different bookshops, depending which bookshop you're in. And as per usual, I don't know a huge amount about the plot because I don't really care. I'm not a plot driven reader. I have heard that this is really good from people that I trust, and it seems like the kind of vibe that I might like. So I'm looking forward to trying a new fantasy series when I get around to this. And then of course my lovely friend had to also send me, I think, what would be one of the most hyped releases of the year, certainly in the fantasy category anyway. That's Babel by R.F. Kuang. I have not read The Poppy War. I think I want to, but we'll just see how I go. This though, I mean, is this not the book of the moment? Fantasy meets dark academia. Everybody's eating it up. I have no idea how I'm going to go with this. I don't think I've read anything dark academia, haven't read anything by R.F. Kuang, but I'm certainly intrigued. The next book we've got is a book that I bought for myself because it is my Blossom Book Club's read for the month of November, and that is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. This is a queer YA story set in the 1950s, and honestly it's become a bit of a classic in the YA space from what I can tell. In fact, one of the other new books that I have is a proof copy for the prequel or kind of like companion novel that has just been released, A Scatter of Light. Ah yes, they're calling it a companion novel, not a sequel or a prequel, and it's about how the threads of family, inspiration, art and identity are woven across generations. So yeah, I'll definitely be reading this one in the month of November, and depending on how much I enjoy it, I'll see if I can get to this proof as well. While we're on the topic of proofs, I've got a few more. This is If You Could See the Sun by Anne Lang. This, honestly, it was the cover that did it for me. I think it's about a girl who's been attending quite a prestigious school in Beijing and who has been really feeling the pressure of that situation when her parents find out that they can no longer afford her tuition. However, that is the least of her worries because it turns out that she is slowly turning invisible. So it seems like it's going to be a story of academic rivalry and secrets. Definitely interesting and obviously a gorgeous cover. This one's just been released actually. This is a proof for Unnecessary Drama by Nina Kenwood. And this is a YA romance story set in Melbourne. I honestly wasn't super keen to pick this up because that's not normally my sort of thing, but a couple of my colleagues have really been enjoying it and we had a spare proof lying around, so I picked it up. I'll see if I can fit it into my reading sometime in the next month or so. And the blurb promises that this channels the screwball comedy of New Girl with an enemies to lovers twist. It's a joyful, heartwarming story about leaving home, dealing with the unexpected complications of life, and somehow finding exactly what you need. Sounds kind of cute. I don't know. It could be fun. And then a proof for a book that is being released, I think in March next year, is Nightbirds by Kate J. Armstrong. I think that this is a debut. Kate J. Armstrong is a successful podcaster and debut author who lives in Melbourne, Victoria. The proof tells me that it is aimed for 13 plus and it explores themes of magic, spells, power, female empowerment and politics. An intoxicating combination of magic, thrilling decadence and simmering female anger set in a 1920s tinted fantasy world bursting with secrets, intrigue, and upheaval. I don't know, I think it could be fun. And as I'm reading more fantasy, and I do need to read more YA as a children's bookseller, I just felt like this might be something I could get into and hopefully recommend. Now, last up, we've got a couple more box sets. As I've mentioned, I'm a sucker for box sets. This first one I bought secondhand. I found for a total bargain, something that I think, like, the reason I want to read it is for work. So I feel entirely justified in this purchase. This is the box set for Rowan of Rin by Emily Rodda. So this is a 5-book box set, and this is a middle fiction series that I hear my manager in particular recommend enthusiastically all the time. I often hear her say that it's a great fantasy option for kids who are like interested in something like Harry Potter but aren't quite ready for it. And no, I'm not out here recommending books by J.K. Rowling, but being a children's bookseller, it's still a point of reference and that's impossible to escape. Anyway, I was excited about this when I saw it because most of the time you get these books in like a large hardback bind up these days, which, I mean, I contemplated buying, but honestly that just doesn't sound comfortable to read. And when I found these for less than the price that I would have had to pay even with my staff discount for the bind up, I was definitely very, very excited. And then finally, the big splurge, the really ridiculous purchase that I am not at all upset about, is this hefty hardback box set of the Tea Dragon Society. So this one comes with a little bit of a story, not really, but just a tiny bit. Indulge me. Basically, my name has been put forward to potentially do a little bit of a thing with graphic novels at work, which is very exciting. And that inspired me to try and read some more graphic novels, even more than I normally do, you know, just to cover my basis. And one graphic novel that I've always been interested by, but have never actually read, is the Tea Dragon Society. So last week I decided to finally pick up a copy of just like the softcover little version that we had at work. I read it and instantly fell head over heels in love. I was obsessed and knew immediately that I needed to read the entire series. Well, some of those books can be a little bit tricky to get, and I don't even know if they print all of them in a softcover. Anyway, we had this ridiculous thing at work already. So I did it. I decided to buy it. Now, of course, keep in mind that I get a very generous staff discount. I don't think I would have invested this much in this. I actually, no, I can't promise that I wouldn't have done it without the discount. Anyway, these are just the 3 graphic novels of the Tea Dragon Society by Kay O'Neill, which is just honestly the most wholesome, gorgeous thing I've ever read. I loved it. And it's one of those things that even though like the first one, I think I only gave 4 stars, I was still like obsessed with it. And overall, this is now one of my favorite series. Definitely one of my favorite graphic novel series. I just loved it. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of tension in these stories. It's literally a world in which these tiny little, like, honestly, like teacup poodle Ollie-sized dragons exist. And these little dragons grow on their heads tea leaves that people can obviously take and brew and drink. And when they drink these tea leaves, they experience the memories of that tea dragon. It's just the most gorgeous shit ever. On top of that, it is just beautifully, casually diverse and inclusive. It's just honestly heartwarming. That is the best word for it. It is heartwarming and charming and wholesome and gorgeous. I loved the characters. I loved the art. I loved the story. It was just like a reprieve from the world. It was just gorgeous. So although I know this seems absolutely ridiculous, especially after saying that I was going to slow down on the hauling, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I found a new favorite. I'm obsessed. And this is gorgeous. This is the sort of thing I'm going to try and find a place to display because I'm obsessed. Okay, so those are my most frequent acquisitions. I have confessed all. I hope you won't judge me too harshly. Like I said, quite a lot of these are birthday related. Some of them are work related. A few though, I will concede, are total indulgences and I'm not mad about them. I would love to hear if any of these books are ones that you would particularly be keen to see me read, you know, earlier rather than later, and maybe even make videos about. A big thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon, and especially big thank you to Livia, Lynette Brown and Marie, and a big thank you to you if you've watched all the way to the end of the video. I'll talk to you in the comments and in the next video. Until then, happy reading. Bye.